the only reason that we have dry food on the shelves is a couple of things, but it was all pushed off in World War II when they needed the metal that was used to create cans for manufacturing bullets and weapons and things for the war.
Right.
So they said, nah, dogs don't get to have canned dog food right now. You're going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah, they did that with a lot of things.
Oh my dog. Dog. Oh my dog.
Oh, my dog, hey.
Oh, my dog, hello.
It's Kara.
And Holly.
And we're back.
Again.
And today, Holly's going to learn us about dog food.
Dog food.
Yep.
Yeah, so these toy episodes are intended to be, you know, semi-educational.
Yeah, or like a deep dive on a topic.
Right.
So today's topic is what we feed our dogs.
Exactly. And I personally feed a homemade diet. And
She's a psychopath. I don't even cook for my human family.
yeah, don't you get the
I get the HelloFresh,
HelloFresh?
and then Marcus makes them for me. So he makes me a vegetarian HelloFresh, and then he makes his own meal with meat
Oh my gosh.
every day.
I feel like all I do is cook. That's I
hate it. I hate the mess of it, the stress of it. If I cook a meal, I'm no longer hungry at the end. So I should cook more because then I wouldn't be so fat. I get so stressed out by the cooking, I can't do it. So I like when someone else cooks for me. I've been spoiled.
I have been making homemade food for about 10 years now, and I got started making dog food when I had Stella and Lady, and Stella was a 4-pound Yorkie.
Cutest thing ever.
She was adorable. That was the first dog I'd ever got on my own.
Mhm.
Like, I had just got divorced. I'd always wanted a Yorkie. I was always told no, so this was the big,
Gonna
do
it.
gonna do it.
Fuck
And
you.
I had found her on Craigslist. Like, looking again, hindsight 2020, right? You look back and
But I didn't buy him from a breeder. But you did, and you didn't know.
I was young. I was dumb. I don't know. I was looking for a dog. It was late at night. Where'd he go? Craigslist.
Mm-hmm.
I found this little toy Yorkie for like $300. And they wanted to be
bargain.
was getting rid of it because kids were in sports or whatever. Or met me at the Coralville Mall parking lot.
Standard.
No tears were shed. There was a even swap. Here's the cash. Here's the dog. That was it. Done.
So funny because that's exactly how I got my first dog. Same deal. It was a McDonald's parking lot, and it was a Lhasa Apso from the newspaper.
Yeah. And I got Stella home, and now I know that she was a puppy mill dog.
Mm-hmm.
She was completely broken down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just scares
Was she a
the
puppy
world.
when you got her, or was she adult?
She was
Older puppy.
She wasn't a puppy, but she was younger. Anyway, she had a dental, lost most of her teeth.
Right.
And then I had gotten Lady for her, which was also a very small, she was a golden Yorkie, and she had a dental and lost all of her teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I kind of then I started feeding canned food.
Right.
That got really expensive, really fast. And I was like, okay, I can, I like to cook. I can make my own food, whatever. Okay, so one of the documentaries on pet food that I love and enjoy and have watched multiple times, it's called Pet Fooled, Fooled. It's a documentary. It's on Prime, Tubi, Sling, Pluto, Roku, Plex. It's everywhere for free.
Came out in 2016.
2016, so it's a little dated, but all still very good information.
Yeah.
And it's like 70 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Go watch it. You'll learn a lot, and you're going to hear a lot of what I'm going to talk about again, reiterated.
Yeah.
And anyway, so some stats and figures. There are 86.9 million dogs in the United States as of 2023. Pet food industry is 64.4 billion with a B. So if you think about this in numbers, it's a huge industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know this. And that's just pet food. That's not the pet industry. That's just pet food. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. So,
Lord.
think about leashes and toys and treats would be part of this. But
Yeah.
it's a huge industry. There's a lot of money in here.
Yeah. Holy cow.
So where there's money, there's corruption. And 5 companies rule the dog food industry. So think Purina, Hills, Nutro, Cargill. Those are the big players in the pet food industry. But when you go to a pet store, how many producers of pet food do you think there are?
Yeah, it looks, when you look down the aisle, there's so many colors and labels and all different brands. And then there's sub-brands of those brands. So there's like, Purina and then Purina One and, all of these different ones that feel like an almost different brand. But really, they're all coming from like basically 5 different places.
Yeah. And they do that intentionally. Because if you think about it, every brand quote that they come up with is a whole other marketing line.
Yeah. Well, it's creating the illusion of choice.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it gets really confusing for consumers when you walk into a store and you have all these options and there's, like Kara said, there's these pictures and it looks, there's like a whole ass chicken on the bag and it's like real chicken and all organic or grain-free, grass-fed, what the hell ever they're saying.
All the things that we think that we need. And in this documentary, and you may get into this exact percentages and stuff, but they just do a high overview of like some of the rules for what they can say on the bag. And in order to say like real meat or like organic chicken, it has to contain only 0 to 3% real meat,
right, for organic.
And it's not even just meat. This is just a processed byproduct of meat, which I know we'll talk more about. Right. But like, so it's not like
essentially no meat at all.
Yeah, the essence of meat.
It smells like meat.
Yeah.
We waved meat over it.
A meat whisper.
Okay, so just a little bit of history on pet food. Pet food as a saleable product has only been around for about 100 years, a little more than that. Before that, people fed pets what they were eating, like scraps off the table or scraps from, processing, butchering their own, livestock, that kind of thing. And then there was also dogs that fended for themselves, specific breeds that were meant for, like Yorkies. They were meant to kill mice and whatnot in the grain mills.
Right.
And so that is a breed fending for themselves, eating a species-specific diet.
Right.
So if they were in the wild, that's what they would have ate anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So this brings us to carnivores versus omnivores.
Right.
And then you throw in herbivores in there for context. So this is a very highly hot debate.
Right.
Topic on whether dogs are carnivores or omnivores, and Purina will tell you that they're omnivores. They'll even do a commercial that says your dog is an omnivore and it needs da 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 da. So what's the difference? So on the opposite side of that, herbivores. So think of like cows. Cows are herbivores. Their teeth are flat and they're broad, and and their jaws move back and forth to grind their food, to grind grain, and hay and grass. So they're grinding it. That's an herbivore. Dogs' teeth are narrow and pointy, and their jaws only move up and down.
Yeah.
They don't move side to side.
And if a dog is well bred, it has a scissor bite, which in nature a wolf has, and that's meant to bite in, kill, and tear meat.
Food. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Tear it apart.
Yeah.
To break it down into smaller, bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And very strong too, sharp to break bones and
rip through welding gloves.
Yes, as I well know. Also, herbivores and omnivores produce, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, amylase. It's in their salivary glands, and this aids digestion and breaks down carbs into sugars.
It's very acidic. Or no, not acidic.
This is what herbivores and omnivores create in their saliva, so in their mouths.
Oh.
Carnivores and dogs do not create this in saliva. It is later on in their digestive tract, in their pancreas, and in their liver.
Okay.
Additionally, carnivores have a higher concentration of stomach acid that processes proteins faster in their digestive tract. So this is why dogs can eat
quite literally anything, garbage,
rotten, dead, decaying critters.
Yeah.
And
they're fine.
Dog shit.
Yeah.
They'll eat anything.
Yeah.
And they can process it, not only because they have that stomach acid, but because their digestive tracts are also significantly shorter than an herbivore. Or like a cow's digestive tract is like 10 times as long as a dog's digestive tract because it has to process all of those grains.
Yeah.
So essentially, even if a dog does eat something that is harmful to it, the stomach acid is going to break it down and it's going to be out of their digestive tract before it harms them.
Yeah. In some ways. Yeah. Some
Yes.
things.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Not obvious.
I mean, if they
Yeah.
eat poison or
Right.
something like that, that's
Right.
not going to fly.
Yeah. So I found this part really interesting. So I feed my dogs a dry kibble. I've done it forever. I spent a lot of time researching and figuring out which one was going to be the best. I went from having my very first dog and feeding it Iams from the grocery store and not knowing anything to realizing that maybe there was something a little better out there and landing where I am now and what I feed. But the only reason that we have dry food on the shelves is a couple of things, but it was all pushed off in World War II when they needed the metal that was used to create cans for manufacturing bullets and weapons and things for the war.
Right.
So they said, nah, dogs don't get to have canned dog food right now. You're going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah, they did that with a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things got pushed to the side.
And then it kind of just stayed that way. So what they did was they created this kibble, which had a crazy shelf life. So then
25 years is what kibble
like today, if you
shelf life.
Yeah.
I mean, they put expiration dates on them, but
right, kibble itself, if you call into a dog food manufacturer and they were to tell you the truth, they would say that it could sit for 25 years and probably be fine, depending on the makeup of the kibble and whatever. But
right. And when dog food came in the can, it was 90% horse meat.
Yeah.
Which was totally acceptable back then.
Mhm.
And frankly, I feel like it should still be acceptable, but that's a whole nother topic. So in order to make kibble, it goes through a process called extrusion. And that's when you combine the wet and dry ingredients together and make like a dough. And then it goes through a highly pressurized steam and essentially high heat baking process.
Heat.
And so when you do that to ingredients, even very good high quality ingredients, you are going to lose a massive amount of nutrition by taking it through that process.
Yeah. I was reading specifically about chicken. Like chicken itself has a ton of protein. It's a really great meat for dogs, but then once it goes through this process, there's hardly anything left as far as nutritional value.
Right.
But it has that shelf life, which, the people who are trying to make money off this really like.
Yeah. So kibble is completely devoid of moisture, which gives it that shelf stable shelf life, which causes our pets to be in a constant state of dehydration. And, I think it's just been part of our lives for so long, 70 years now that kibble has been around, that we don't even notice it anymore. We don't realize the effects that kibble has had because, it's always been part of our lives.
Yeah.
So all of this is to say that we've gotten very, very far away from a species-appropriate diet, and it's actually genetically changing the species.
Yes. So I was reading just an article that was talking about, if you were to change your dog's diet from a lifetime of hard kibble only and then start to introduce, let's say, a raw food diet, you may see what you might see as like a health effect. Like you're going to see loose stools, you're going to see your dog not feeling well. And it's because their bodies have spent so much time only processing this, product that it takes a while for their bodies to get used to being able to do what they were meant to do.
And I equate it to if I just fed you dry cereal all day, every day, your entire life, that's all, and a glass of water.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You would be so constipated. It would be awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to quote Dr. Karen Becker. She is one of the people in the Pet Fool documentary. She also wrote a book called Real Food for Healthy Dogs and Cats. This is the 2017 edition. She's updated it since, but this is my copy. Highly recommend it. You can get that on Amazon. Anyway, I'm going to quote her directly. because I think this kind of sums it up really well. So she says each animal has its own biologic requirement for certain nutrients. A species-appropriate diet for worms is dirt. A species-appropriate diet for, let's say, hummingbirds would be nectar. You can't feed earthworms nectar, and you can't feed hummingbirds dirt. Both of those animals would simply die. Some species, when you offer them not biologically appropriate food, they simply won't consume them. When you offer a snake, another obligate carnivore, a salad, they simply starve to death. They will not consume a non-biologically appropriate food in light of sustaining life. They simply die. It gets pretty confusing with dogs and cats, however, because dogs and cats are nutritionally much more resilient than other species. What this means is that we can nutritionally abuse them, for lack of a better term, and they don't die immediately. They just have overall vitality decline and overall degenerative changes take place in their bodies from feeding them foods that are not biologically appropriate. So what she's saying there is, it's just like with people. We can eat McDonald's every day for 3 days, three times a day, every day. Like that one guy did that documentary.
He died, I think.
No,
Yes, he did now, like recently.
well, he went on and did other ones.
I know, but like he recently died.
Well,
He didn't die from that.
either way, we all know that we can eat junk food all day, every day, and we're still going to live for years and years and years. But
Yeah.
our quality of life and our health are going to significantly decline over time, and
Died of
we will
cancer.
eventually die. Weird.
Probably from McDonald's cancer.
There you
I
go.
was only 53. But yeah, yes, exactly. Well,
So it's not that you're, that you're killing them. They're still getting nutrition from, just like you're still getting nutrition from a McDonald's hamburger. It's just not as good as, let's say, a burger from that you make yourself, that you buy the burger from, or where you know where the
Of course,
livestock is, or you had it butchered at your local butcher, or you have a butcher that you trust and you get your meat from there. That's going to be much more nutritionally appropriate for you than McDonald's every day.
right. Yeah.
So this brings us to another quote. It's when we're starting to talk about the pet food industry, is there has been very poor research done into what is actually appropriate and what isn't. There isn't anybody that's really minding the store saying, here, we really know that this is needed for pet food.
It feels like a bit of a wild, wild west situation.
Yeah.
Nobody is, there are regulations, but they're nowhere near as strict as like humans.
And I think consumers think that there is,
Yeah.
and there isn't.
No.
There is not an FDA for dog food.
Yeah.
For pet food.
The FDA is involved with the making of pet food, but it doesn't make the rules.
They're involved in it gets very gray and blurry here,
Yeah.
as most.
Yeah. So you can look up on the FDA website, and they've got very little content about the pet food industry. And they link back to this organization called AAFCO, AAFCO.
which stands for Association of American Feed Control Officials. This is a non-governmental, non-regulatory, membership-based organization that makes the, quote, rules for the pet food industry.
Mm-hmm.
So guess who the members are? Guess who make up the members of AAFCO?
Purina?
Purina, Hills, Nestle, Cargill, and they are non-voting members. The voting members of AAFCO are the FDA and the Canada version of FDA.
Okay.
So the non-voting members are going to put together what they think it should be. Think of it like Congress, right?
Yeah.
They're going to put together this bill, what this should be, and then they're going to send it up to the voting members, and they'll vote. But they're not going to say, no, it needs to be X, Y, or Z. They're just going to say no.
Yeah.
They're just going to say yes.
A edited draft.
Right.
They're not going to give
lining.
Yeah.
So they also, AAFCO does not approve pet food. So it's not like Purina brings them a bag of dog food and says, here, test it. Is this good? Are we good to go? Does this meet all of your requirements? No, AAFCO does not do that.
Yeah.
They simply set the standards and definitions for the ingredients that go into pet food.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, They set the minimum nutritional requirements for a producer to color food chicken or beef or lamb or whatever. But it doesn't matter to AFCO where that, quote, chicken comes from or where the beef comes from.
So I was shocked to find out that this could be roadkill.
Rendering plants.
It could be
diseased
animals that were sick. They just all get ground up and processed and baked into those cute little nuggets that your dogs eat for breakfast.
Right.
What?
All the chicks that hatcheries.
Oh gosh, I've seen those videos.
Yep. All of that goes into dog food.
Yeah.
And so if that product didn't go somewhere, if we didn't have anywhere for that product to go,
Where would it go?
where would it go?
It's solving a problem.
I think one back is scratching the other here.
Mhm.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So if you are a pet food producer and you can put rendering, dead carcasses, whatever you want into your food to meet these, minimum nutritional requirements, or you could put,
farm fresh chicken breasts in there.
Yeah, farm fresh chicken breast that's free range and the farmers leave the radio on for them at night.
Yeah.
Which one do you think is going to cost you more?
I think you probably are going to get the roadkill.
You're right. Yeah. They're concerned about their bottom line. Again, what did I say? $64.4 billion industry.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't get that high.
They're here to make that money.
Feeding full ass chicken breasts.
Yeah, very true.
Also, so in 2007, if any of you recall, there was a huge recall, a pet food recall. I'm not going to get into the details of it because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
I remember it though because I had my first 2 dogs around that time, and I had bought those treats.
Yeah, and a lot of dogs died.
Yeah,
There was a class action lawsuit.
specifically chicken jerky, but it was made by a lot of different places. It was a
Just
specific
packaged differently.
Yeah. Well, yeah, made by one place, packaged differently.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when it got to the lawsuit stage, how do you value a companion animal? They have finally defined how to value a human life. It's between $6 and $9 million.
Right.
But how do you value a companion animal?
It's very small.
What did you pay for your dog? Vet expenses. What are your future losses? Like, it's nothing. It's mice nuts.
Yeah.
And so the pet food industry they're not scared. They're not incentivized or pressured to do the right thing. Because if you get to the point of suing me,
What's it for? $1,000?
which I'm going to bear, it's an Aaron Brockovich situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to bury you in paperwork. But should you even get to that point, okay, here's $1,500 for your companion animal or whatever they equate it to. It's nothing on a $64.4 billion industry.
Right. Yeah. They, in the documentary, have who I assume is an attorney or someone that's an evaluation expert, just talking about that and saying, well, obviously, as humans, we place a really large value on them because they're members of our family and all of the things. We call them our kids, all the stuff. But legally speaking, they're property.
Right.
Which, as we know, is a problem when it comes to animal rights and like the
Boarding cases,
all the things.
neglects.
These are all just pieces of property. So they are creating a food and a product that is to be given to a piece of property that has a finite value, which doesn't matter if they get a kick in the shins from time to time. It's worth it to them to maybe get sued if Fido dies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can hear me kind of getting riled up. I'm very passionate about this subject.
It's the queen of the
so now I'm sure all of our listeners, if you're still out there, are like, okay, Holly, what can I do?
Yeah.
What now? What? Okay.
Yeah.
So first, go watch the documentary
Mhm.
first, please. Again, Prime, 71 minutes. Do it.
Yeah.
The biggest barrier that most people face when feeding a species-specific or species-appropriate diet is affordability. It's much more expensive to feed a raw diet,
Right.
and it's much harder to source a raw diet than it is to go to Walmart and, or you get a bag of corner store and get a bag of dog food and put it down and you're done.
Yeah.
And also people are just not comfortable doing it. they're
They
not
get
used
freaked
to
out
it.
by
They
the
freaked
raw.
out by raw, and
There
also
is still some controversy about whether or not a raw food diet is it.
oh, absolutely.
So, while in this documentary they do lean towards that it is a good choice as a whole, and the experts and the veterinarians seem to mostly agree, a lot of people, you can find an argument against it. But that's one thing that I have seen people kind of waffle back and forth on.
Well, I think there's a lot of vets that don't agree with this. And I don't think it's because they refute the facts. I think it's because when you feed a diet, when you buy dog food, it comes with all of the nutrients that, AFCO has decided that a dog needs, which that's okay. That's debatable, but let's set that right there. It's there, it's nutritionally sound, and you've got it covered. When you're building your own diet or feeding a raw diet, you can miss some things. You still have to balance it. You can't just throw down a steak and put an egg down and call it a day.
Right.
Like, you still have to make sure you're meeting nutritional requirements, and a lot of people are gonna, miss that step, and so vets get really uncomfortable with it. In fact, when I adopted Reese, and she has a heart murmur, and I took her to Iowa State to have a echocardiogram, right? Yeah. And they asked me about her diet, and I said, well, I feed a homemade diet, and that vet didn't like it. She did not like it, and in fact, it got a little uncomfortable for a minute because she kept pressing me on it. I said, listen, I've been feeding this diet for almost a decade now. All of my dogs are on this diet. I make huge batches. I freeze it. They get fed, and all of my dogs are very healthy. They're healthy weight, healthy bowels. They don't have any problems.
And they live into their teens. And
I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah.
These are my dogs.
Yeah.
It got a little
spicy.
So she sent me to a website called balanceit.com. And this was I was going to talk about this a little bit later on, but we'll talk about it now. On balanceit.com, you can put in a recipe, or they will provide recipes for you. And they also sell, of course they do, they also sell the supplement
of
that bone replacement meal, that kind of stuff. It's you add a teaspoon to your food and you got all the minerals that you need for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate her concern. I understand why she's concerned. She gave me a tool, and I'm giving it to you. So anyway, so what can you do? So
that's option.
And option one, feed a raw diet, get it, and in this book, the Dr. Becker's book, there's multiple, recipes, and she does, rotations.
Yeah.
So one day you feed, chicken, the next day you feed beef, the next day you feed turkey, the next day, whatever.
Documentary, by the way, though, they show her feeding her dogs a meal. And I swear to you, there is a small dog, and she makes them what looks like a feast for a grown man for a month. And she sets down this bowl that has this mound of meat with the egg on it. And I'm like, how in the world is that tiny dog going to eat that food? It felt like the proportions were That was my one time. I was like,
did you notice how excited her dogs were?
Well, I'm sure.
And my dogs are ecstatic for dinner time.
Yeah.
I mean, I start getting their bowls out, and they are just... and they waft that food down, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not dogging on you.
Well, I'm the other side of this because
you're on the other side of it. Are your dogs excited when you fill their feeder?
Listen, so I do a few things that people may not think is right, but I do some of them for behavioral reasons. Because I have such a large number of dogs that are in and come in and out of my home.
Right.
I have found a really great balance to be open feed.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have a mealtime. Everybody has access to food all the time. I have never had a food aggression case in my house, ever.
Right.
Now, for me, that is a very important thing. So I have found a shelf-stable kibble, which has 4 stars on the Pet Food Advisor. Yeah, dog food, which we'll link that. That works really well for all shapes, sizes, ages of breeds of dogs. I found like the best option that I can find that everybody does well on. Nobody gets sick coming into my house eating this food, and nobody fights about it. So for me, those are my priorities.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in this because I feel like I'd be interested in my personal dogs having perhaps a supplement to this meal, because the variety to me is what I feel like I'm missing.
Top line raw diet. Second tier would be a cooked diet, which is what I feed. I don't feed raw, I feed cooked.
Yeah.
That's what I'm comfortable with. Third tier down would be like commercial raw or cooked. So like your fresh pet or your farmer's dog or whatever. You can get them at your store or they'll deliver it to you. That's fine.
Yeah.
Below that, dehydrated or freeze-dried, we can
Same
talk
kind
about
of
that.
thing as that.
The reason that dehydrated or freeze-dried food is better than kibble is because of that extrusion process. So when you dehydrate, it's at a very low temperature for a longer period of time.
Yes.
When you freeze-dry, like I have a freeze dryer, it doesn't use heat. It takes the moisture out of the product by freezing it at a very low temperature and then pulling a vacuum on it. So it maintains the nutrient levels.
Right.
That's why they
and then it becomes a little more shelf stable.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just as shelf stable as I have freeze dried my dog food before for end of the world scenarios, prepper status shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're getting into probably what most people are more comfortable with is your canned food diets.
Okay.
And the reason that canned food is better, than a kibble is because of the moisture content. We're missing the moisture content.
Yeah. I do feel like that a combo of these things is good, because if we remember back to our episode about doggy dentals, if we're not having any sort of hard food or chewing that's happening, then you get into that like dental disease.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, I've got pretty decent mouths at my house, except for the little bitties. So I think that's a good thing.
And even for me, I mix in high premium grade kibble
to give that
on top of the homemade diet to boost it.
Yeah.
And to give them that crunch too.
Yeah.
So you can there's no like just do it this way.
Right.
You can do it a million ways. You can do any combo of this, but at a minimum, you got to get some moisture into their diet.
Yeah.
Not just water.
Okay.
So like with Dallas, my German Shepherd, he gets a high grade kibble. I add fish oil. So for his size, he gets 4 pumps of fish oil. He gets an egg added to it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets cottage cheese added to it. And then I get pork and beef liver and organs. So like pork and beef hearts, tongues, brains, livers, all that stuff. And then I grind it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a scoop of that raw on his food. Mm-hmm. So he's getting, not just kibble. He's getting all this added stuff to it as well. And Dallas is, a 13-year-old German Shepherd, and he's doing fine.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I have a 13-year-old German Shepherd, too, that's been eating kibble.
You're not helping me out here. Okay.
Saying.
So if you must feed a kibble diet, which is, 90% of the population, you can alternate. So if you could feed one meal a week or every other meal or a couple meals a week of something else, or add to it like I do for Dallas.
Yeah.
Add an egg to it. Add, if you've got a leftover steak bone or a T-bone or something, throw that in there. He'll eat it.
Well, I'm thinking about for my house, when I leave in the morning, that would be a great time to do a special snack or breakfast item for kennel time.
Yep.
Because the big dogs go into their kennels when we leave. And so I could easily, and they have a bowl that they have in their kennels with them. I could easily put the scoop of whatever I decided to make.
Right.
I'm not making anything, but bye.
Yeah. Even if you can't replace a kibble meal with something,
a supplement to give a variation.
Then do a treat.
Okay.
Like just
okay.
And I make freeze-dried treats. I sell them.
Yeah.
It's that ground liver
My
combination.
mom's been waiting for her freeze-dried treats for a month. She'll tell me this if I don't mention it on this podcast. So she's been waiting for a bag of Holly's treats for some time.
Because her dogs love them, don't they?
Yeah. She does.
So the treats that I make is just the ground liver that I was just talking about and organs mixed with canned pumpkin.
Yeah.
And then I freeze-dry it.
Yeah.
My dogs go nuts over those things.
That is
I have not had a dog yet that doesn't.
Oh, yeah. My kids really love Holly's treats.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, you are responsible as your pet owner to know what you're feeding and to feed the best that you can afford.
Yeah. And research what works best for you. And if you are going to, like me, I have a pack, and it does not make sense for me to, first of all, cook anything at all in my kitchen. It's not safe for anyone. I burned down the house. But, I think spending the time to research and find the appropriate commercial dog food, I've done that. But I think what doing my homework that Holly gave me and watching this documentary has told me is I probably need some variation in the diet apart from what they're getting with their kibble every day.
Right there at Paws and Pines, they've got that apothecary.
Yeah.
All those bones and all the fish stuff.
Yeah. And amazing. My kids do get turkey meatballs when we go to the dog park.
There you go.
Yeah.
So dogfoodadvisor.com is where you can go. You can look up what you're feeding now and see how it ranks. I will not feed anything less than 4.5 stars. That's me.
Yeah.
Less than 4 stars is also acceptable. I guess.
He's just saying that because my dog food is 4 stars.
Anything below that, and I feel like
She said that and looked at me, though.
She knows your feet.
I was avoiding eye contact. Truthaboutpetfood.com is another resource where you can go and learn. It gives up-to-date information on recalls, other informational articles there. It's a nice little fun website.
Yeah.
Again, balanceit.com. If you are interested in feeding a homemade diet or a raw diet, you can put your recipe in there and see how it tracks out.
Yeah, which is a cool tool.
I do want to say, I want to call out those. Have you seen those packets of shit food? It's like
Waste and meaty.
That's
Worst dog
that's
food.
the worst dog food there is.
That there is.
Period. That was the food that came with Stella when I got her. That's what they gave me. It was a box of that shit.
Oh yeah.
And when I looked that up, it's
And Old Roy with
train.
moist and meaty on top.
Ooh.
Gravy train. Anything that you can get that's like a Walmart brand dog food, probably don't.
But specifically, they call out, and I'm calling this out now because I should have called out earlier. But specifically, it's those packets, like where you rip off the top.
Like
and
Pedigree makes them, like it's like the sauce.
So it's not
oily.
it's the sauce stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not canned food. It's in a packet. And Dr. Becker specifically calls this out as the worst, absolute worst dog food out there because
It was wasted.
there's some sort of chemical in it that whatever it is.
So yes, but actually that chemical, that carcinogen chemical, I was going to say this earlier when we were reading through all of this, there is an allowance for the amount of this known carcinogen chemical to be put into a lot of things.
Right.
A lot of it is to create this
Not just
stability.
pet food either.
No.
Human stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. And I, fall back on thinking about, we had a dog die of cancer. It's like, well, where did that come from? I don't know. I mean, you never know, but everything gives you cancer anymore. But it's crazy to me that this industry that we assume as consumers that is so regulated is not regulated. And the regulations allow for chemicals.
Right.
It allows for a certain percentage of toxins to be in the foods.
Right.
So toxic ingredients that on their own will kill a living being, a percentage of that is allowed to be in dog food.
That's okay. We're good with that. Check. Yeah, I don't get it.
And it's right into the rules that the FDA check marks and then puts on their website. What do you mean?
Well, this is why I'm here. This is why we're here talking about it.
It is crazy.
Now, anybody that is looking into getting into a homemade diet, I want to, let you know it doesn't take as long as you think it does. I can make a batch of dog food in an hour, start to finish, an hour 15 with dishes.
Yeah.
You got to do dishes throughout.
Yeah. That's a lot of.
Do it in an hour. I've timed myself. And I freeze it in tubs, and that will last me 3 weeks for 4 dogs, 4 small dogs.
So you
4 10-pound
you
dogs.
scarred me a little because back in the day when you first were really diving into this, when you go to the Dollar Tree and it's summertime and you're going to take your kids and you're like, little Jimmy, I don't want to go to the big pool. That's annoying here. And you get out the hose and you fill up that baby pool of water and your kids go out there and swim, this psychopath would make that much dog food at a time. So we're talking like vats of peas, carrots, turkey, rice. And she takes this picture, which I will post on so that you all can see. And she had to have used like an oar to stir it. It was so huge. I'm like,
Now I will say that was in the earlier days of this diet. I have refined it. I've made it easier to work with. But
small batch.
That was a quad batch. I used to make quad batch with my mom and dad because they also feed a homemade diet.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing I do. They make a huge batch all at once and freeze it. But so they adopted Tater, that little puppy.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious. I'm excited to see how long she lives because she's on this homemade diet. And she's been on it from the beginning.
The moment she started eating.
Now, she also gets, anything that dad is eating.
That dog eats
any given night.
every fruit, vegetable.
She loves watermelons, pears, apples, Cheez-Its.
Well, that's
not
food.
That is not a species appropriate
item
diet.
And it's going to throw off this long-term science experiment that we're doing. You can't do that. We want to see this.
By the way, they did the Embark DNA test on her, and so we're taking bets if anybody
when
wants
is it
to
coming back? Okay, we'll post a picture of this little sweet tot who
Tater tot
came out of
Malibu,
who was a long-haired Chihuahua.
Yeah.
By all, I don't see anything else in her. She's clearly a long-haired Chihuahua. She gives birth to
a baby deer
with lamb fur. For the longest time, she looked like she was beamed straight down from the stars. Like
lamb chop.
Like lamb chop alien.
She's super cute.
But she's absolutely adorable. But every time I saw her, I'm like, that's an alien. That's not a Chihuahua. I don't know what it is. So adorable. But yeah, she's living the life, eating all the good foods. So she's our experiment.
We're going to find out.
Yes.
Probably outlive mom and dad, and I'll have to take care of her.
It all comes around.
Anyway, that's our episode on
I'm so
food.
thrilled we've got to do this. Holly has been talking about and living this life for a really long time, and I've been completely ignoring her and everything about it because I'm lazy and I have so many dogs to feed, and ain't nobody got time for that. But I'm going to make a little time to add variety.
I don't judge anybody unless you feed, Olroy. Then I'm going to judge the shit out of you. But
no Olroy at our house.
Do you feed Olroy? Oh, thank God. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, again, I'm not an expert. Talk to your vet. They're going to tell you something completely different.
Yeah.
So do your own research.
And your dog,
make up your own mind. They're your dog.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay that vet bill, not your vet. So just,
see what they say.
Make up your own mind.
Yeah.
Do your research.
You should talk to your vet, but you don't always have to listen to him, right?
Exactly. They've got a bottom line too.
It's true. They're trying to make
I love my vet.
Yeah, we love our vets, but you got to make your choice just like with your own children. Are you going to feed them McDonald's 3 times a week, or are you going to make them home-cooked meals, or are you going to marry someone who also will do the home-cooked meals and then you can eat bonbons? That's what I do. I'm a kept woman. That is not true at all. Not true. But I don't cook. Okay, so when it comes to feeding your dogs,
figure it out.
Figure it out.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll figure it out.
Oh my dog. What I mean when I see, what I see, what I feel, when I dream, when I be, I'm a freak. What up? Oh, what up? Everybody look at me when I'm free, when I feel, what I see, when I do it, I'm a freak. What up? Oh, what up? Say what we got, it's hot to spot, give up the drop, see what we got, do what, we got to go, the body flow, too hot to show, the front row, we won't stop. Hey!